For years, Wendy Williams stood as one of the most recognizable voices in daytime television. Her sharp wit, unfiltered commentary, and larger-than-life personality turned The Wendy Williams Show into a cultural phenomenon. She wasn't afraid to say what others only whispered, and audiences either loved her honesty or cringed at her boldness, but they always tuned in. Behind her purple chair and signature catchphrases, Wendy became a household name, someone who could make you laugh, gasp, or shake your head all in a single episode. But now, at 61, Wendy's story has taken a turn that few could have predicted. Instead of celebrating her legacy as a pioneer of talk television, headlines tell a far more somber story. Health struggles, personal battles, and a heartbreaking decline have left fans concerned and saddened. Once the queen of hot topics, Wendy has now become the subject of those very headlines, her life unfolding under the same unforgiving spotlight she once thrived in. What really happened to Wendy Williams? How did a woman who commanded millions of viewers each day end up facing such devastating challenges in her personal and professional life? And most importantly, what does her story reveal about the hidden cost of fame and the toll of always being in the public eye? Let's take a closer look at Wendy Williams' journey, her rise, her fall, and the heartbreaking reality she faces today. Before Wendy Williams became a daytime television icon, she was already making waves in a different world, radio. Born in Asbury Park, New Jersey in 1964, Wendy showed early signs of the charisma that would eventually make her famous. After graduating from Northeastern University with a degree in communications, she entered the fast-paced world of radio broadcasting. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, she had already developed a reputation as one of the most outspoken and fearless voices on the airwaves. Wendy earned the nickname the Queen of Radio for her no-holds-barred interviews and ability to draw attention. Unlike many radio hosts who played it safe, Wendy leaned into controversy. She asked tough questions, often sparking debates and, at times, feuds with celebrities. What set her apart was her honesty. She wasn't afraid to say what the public was already thinking. That boldness built her a massive following, but it also made her a polarizing figure. By the early 2000s, Wendy had become a household name in radio, particularly in New York. But television producers soon realized her unique personality was made for the screen. In 2008, The Wendy Williams Show debuted, quickly becoming one of the most talked-about daytime programs. Viewers were instantly drawn to her larger-than-life personality, her candid approach to celebrity gossip, and her famous catchphrase, "How you doin'?" The purple chair on her set became a symbol of a new kind of daytime TV, raw, unscripted, and unapologetically direct. Her success wasn't just about entertainment, it was about breaking barriers. Wendy was one of the few black women to dominate daytime television in an industry that had long been resistant to diverse voices. She represented something bigger than herself, an example of how individuality and authenticity could break through traditional molds. But fame came at a price. The same qualities that made Wendy beloved also made her a frequent target of criticism. Her outspoken nature often led to backlash, with some celebrities refusing to appear on her show. Still, audiences couldn't get enough. For more than a decade, The Wendy Williams Show thrived, making her one of the most recognizable figures in pop culture. This period marked the height of Wendy's career. She had transitioned from a controversial radio personality to a daytime TV legend. Millions tuned in each day to hear her opinions, watch her reactions, and feel like they were part of her world. Wendy wasn't just a host. She was a cultural force who redefined what daytime television could look like. Yet even as her career soared, the cracks were beginning to show. Behind the bright lights and applause, Wendy was facing personal battles that few fully understood. And as time went on, those battles would slowly begin to spill into the public eye, setting the stage for the heartbreaking struggles that would follow. When Wendy Williams turned 50, she was at the top of her game. Her talk show was in its golden era, her fan base was stronger than ever, and her larger-than-life personality made her a household name. But as the years passed, subtle cracks began to show, ones that many dismissed at first as part of her eccentric personality. These moments, however, were early signs of a much deeper problem. One of the first red flags came during her live broadcasts. Wendy, who was once sharp-witted and quick on her feet, began stumbling over her words. Fans initially brushed it off, believing she was simply tired or distracted. But as these slip-ups grew more frequent, concern spread among her loyal audience. Producers and staff reportedly tried to keep things under control. But there was no hiding the fact that something was wrong. The moment that truly shook viewers was the infamous Halloween episode in 2017 when Wendy fainted on live television. Dressed as the Statue of Liberty, she suddenly staggered, her eyes wide with panic before collapsing on stage. Although she returned after a commercial break and claimed she was simply overheated, many fans weren't convinced. That incident became a turning point, sparking endless speculation about her health. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. Some staffers revealed that Wendy would sometimes struggle to focus during meetings, forget key details, or seem disoriented. Those close to her noticed a change in her behavior and energy. Yet, despite these concerns, Wendy kept pushing forward, determined to maintain her career and public image. She didn't want to appear weak, not in front of the media, not in front of her fans, and certainly not in front of her critics. Complicating matters further was her personal life. Around this time, her marriage to Kevin Hunter began crumbling. Kevin, who had been her manager and closest confidant, was revealed to have fathered a child with another woman. The betrayal devastated Wendy, not only emotionally but professionally, since her husband had been deeply involved in her career. Their divorce in 2020 marked the end of a long and painful chapter, leaving her more vulnerable than ever. The stress from the collapse of her marriage combined with her ongoing health struggles created a dangerous spiral. Wendy began missing episodes of her talk show more frequently, forcing networks to bring in guest hosts. Each absence fueled more rumors. Was it exhaustion, substance abuse, or something far worse? By 2021, it became undeniable that Wendy was facing serious health battles. Reports surfaced about her struggles with Graves' disease, an autoimmune disorder affecting the thyroid, which she had previously spoken about publicly. The condition caused severe fatigue, eye issues, and swelling, making it nearly impossible for her to keep up with the demands of hosting a daily talk show. On top of that, other unconfirmed medical challenges added to the mystery of her decline. What made it even more heartbreaking was Wendy's transparency. She had built her career on being brutally honest about celebrities and herself, but when it came to her own health, she was conflicted. Some days she opened up about her struggles. Other days, she brushed off concerns and insisted she was fine. This inconsistency only deepened the worry among her fans, who didn't know what to believe anymore. Through all of this, Wendy's once vibrant spirit seemed dimmer. She went from being the unstoppable queen of media to someone who struggled just to show up. For fans who had admired her resilience and larger-than-life confidence, it was heartbreaking to watch her unravel in real time. These early signs of Wendy's decline didn't just mark the beginning of the end of her talk show, they marked the start of a deeply personal battle. It was a battle against illness, betrayal, and the weight of being in the public eye while her private world was falling apart. And while she tried to hide her pain, it was clear that something far more tragic was on the horizon. For more than a decade, The Wendy Williams Show was one of the most talked-about daytime programs on television. Its success wasn't just about celebrity gossip, it was about Wendy herself. Her bold opinions, playful shade, and larger-than-life personality kept audiences glued to their screens. But by the early 2020s, the cracks that had been forming in Wendy's life became impossible to ignore, and her beloved talk show began to unravel. By 2021, Wendy's absences grew too frequent to be dismissed as minor setbacks. Fans tuned in expecting her, only to find guest hosts filling her seat. While some guest hosts, like Sherry Shepherd, earned praise for their performances, it was clear that no one could truly replace Wendy's unique voice. The audience tuned in for Wendy, the "how you doing" catchphrase, the hot takes, the honesty, and without her, the heart of the show was missing. Behind the scenes, producers faced an impossible situation. They wanted to support Wendy, but they also had a network contract to uphold. Each canceled appearance cost money and put pressure on the production team. For months, They tried to reassure fans that Wendy would be back, but the reality was grim. Her health struggles, combined with the emotional toll of her divorce and financial battles, made it nearly impossible for her to return full-time. In 2022, the announcement came that broke fans' hearts. The show would officially end after 13 successful seasons. It was the end of an era. For years, Wendy had dominated the daytime talk space, becoming a cultural icon who wasn't afraid to say what others wouldn't. And yet, her career ended not with a triumphant farewell, but with silence. Wendy wasn't even present for the show's final episode. Instead, guest host Sherry Shepherd closed out the series, while Wendy, the woman who built the empire, was absent from her own goodbye. This absence sparked controversy. Many fans felt Wendy deserved a grand send-off, a moment to thank her audience for their loyalty. Others wondered whether Wendy was even in the right state of mind to take the stage. The lack of closure left viewers unsettled, feeling as though something was terribly wrong. After the show's cancellation, Wendy disappeared from the spotlight. Gone were the daily interviews, the gossip segments, the headlines about her on-screen commentary. In their place were troubling reports about her health, finances, and personal life. Rumors swirled about guardianship battles, with claims that she had lost control of her money due to concerns over her ability to manage it. To fans who had watched her go toe-to-toe with some of the biggest names in Hollywood, the idea that Wendy was no longer in control of her own life was devastating. Adding to the heartbreak was her isolation. For a woman who had built her career on being outspoken and present in the public eye, Wendy's sudden retreat into silence was unsettling. The once vibrant talk show host now lived largely behind closed doors, with only occasional updates reaching the public. Those who caught glimpses of her noticed how frail and different she seemed compared to the Wendy they remembered. For her fans, this silence was painful. Many had grown up watching Wendy, connecting with her honesty, her humor, and her fearlessness. To see her vanish from the stage without explanation felt like losing a friend. The woman who had always been brutally candid about other celebrities' struggles was now facing her own battle. But this time, she wasn't talking. The end of the Wendy Williams Show wasn't just the end of a talk show, it was the end of an era in television. Wendy had carved out a space for herself that no one else could truly fill. But as her career faded, so too did her voice in the cultural conversation. Her absence left a void, one that made her tragedy even more profound. Today, at 61 years old, Wendy Williams' life looks far different from the glitz and glamour of her talk show days. Once a force of nature in the entertainment industry, she now faces a reality that is both heartbreaking and uncertain. The bold, fearless woman who once commanded television screens has been replaced by someone struggling to regain control of her health, her finances, and her independence. In recent years, Wendy has been the subject of deeply troubling reports. Concerns about her cognitive health have been widespread, with claims that she is battling forms of dementia, as well as the long-term effects of her autoimmune condition, Graves' disease. These health challenges have left her physically frail and mentally vulnerable. For her fans, it is shocking to see someone who once had such sharp wit and commanding energy now portrayed as fragile and dependent on others. Adding to her struggles are the financial and legal battles that have played out publicly. In 2022, it was revealed that her accounts were placed under guardianship, with banks and courts questioning her ability to manage her own money. For a woman who had worked for decades to build her career and wealth, the idea of losing control over her finances was devastating. Wendy, who once spoke so openly about her independence and success, now faces the reality of relying on court-appointed guardians to make decisions on her behalf. Perhaps even more painful than the financial troubles has been her isolation. Once surrounded by fans, colleagues, and industry peers, Wendy's circle has grown smaller. Many of the people she once trusted are no longer by her side. Reports suggest she spends much of her time out of the public eye, rarely making appearances and often shielded from media coverage. For fans who grew up watching her every day, her absence feels like a gaping void. And yet, despite the tragedy of her current situation, there are moments of resilience that remind the world of who Wendy Williams truly is. In early 2024, the release of a documentary titled "Where is Wendy Williams" gave fans a rare and emotional look into her life today. The documentary painted a raw picture of her struggles, but also highlighted her desire to be heard, her fight to maintain dignity, and her longing to connect with her audience once more. Watching Wendy open up about her pain was difficult, but it also revealed the heart of the woman who built her career on honesty. The tragedy of Wendy Williams lies not only in her decline, but in the contrast between who she was and who she is now. She went from being one of the most powerful voices in media, a woman unafraid to call out Hollywood royalty, to someone whose own voice has been muted by illness and circumstance. The vibrant talk show host who once made the world laugh, gasp, and gossip is now fighting battles far away from the cameras that made her famous. Still, her legacy remains undeniable. Wendy changed the landscape of talk television forever. She paved the way for a new kind of honesty in entertainment, one that blended gossip with raw truth in a way no one had done before. Even in her absence, her impact continues to be felt, with many of today's talk show hosts citing her as an influence. For fans, the hope remains that Wendy can find peace and stability even if she never returns to the screen. The tragedy of her story is undeniable, but so too is the resilience she has shown in the face of unimaginable challenges. Wendy Williams may no longer be the loud, glamorous queen of daytime TV, but she is still a fighter, a woman who has endured more than most and whose legacy will outlive the pain of her current struggles. Her story today is heartbreaking, but it is also a reminder of how quickly fame and success can change. Wendy once ruled the stage. Now she fights behind the scenes for her health, her voice, and her place in a world that she once conquered.